Hello and welcome to some more Star Citizen with a summary of an AMA and Ask Me Anything with the man himself, Chris Roberts, talking about Death of a Spaceman, Squadron 42's delay, base building, and more. Death of a Spaceman was written back in February 2013. This plans to have your character be mortal and eventually be able to be permanently killed. What's changed with the plans for this mechanic? As with all of these, Chris responded, later this month there's going to be a Calling All Devs episode on Death of a Spaceman with myself and Richard Tyreer, core gameplay director, which includes the actor teams, where we'll go into the current plans, which you'll start to see the results of mid next year as we start to bring in medical gameplay. So watch for that, and we'll go into the current design, which is ready for implementation. Squadron 42 is currently 6 years behind its original delivery target. Over recent years, there has been little communication on updated delivery targets for Squadron 42. The last information available was that the estimated Squadron 42 beta in Q3 2020 on the now abandoned roadmap. That date has now passed and there has been no communication on whether Squadron 42 has entered beta. As it stands, the community has completely divided opinions on what to expect release date of Squadron 42 wise, with opinions varying from that Squadron 42 is in beta currently to it being 5 years plus away. You stated in the pledge, "We the developer intend to treat you with the same respect we would give a publisher. You will receive regular updates about the progress of the game." Given the massive uncertainty on the progress of Squadron 42 within the community, do you feel as though you've been meeting this objective? Chris's response here: tomorrow we'll be launching the inaugural episode of The Briefing Room, which is, at time of recording, today, 10th of October. So today they will be releasing the inaugural episode of The Briefing Room, a show focused just on Squadron 42, which we are planning to do every quarter, so every 3 months, until Squadron 42 releases, where we will address some more of this. We haven't been happy with how effectively we've been showing the progress on Squadron 42, as we felt the previous format didn't do a good job of all in communicating just how much work is going on. The new roadmap format, which we've been working towards and on since we announced it, would be changing it up to do a much better job in showing what people are working on at any given time, as opposed to just focusing on deliverable features. I briefly discussed it previously, and I'll link that down below. Squadron 42 is a tricky project to communicate on, and as we really don't want to give the experience and story away, which can make updating certain content or features challenging. We do give regular updates on Squadron 42, even though we haven't updated the Squadron 42 roadmap since the beginning of this year with the monthly reports. The most recent one of these was earlier this week. We also occasionally have content or feature updates on things that will be in Squadron, as we did with the new Vandal ships in the Inside Star Citizen episode Enemy Mine. We also communicate way more than any other developer or publisher that I'm aware of in terms of work and progress on Star Citizen, which is the game the pledge was referring to. We have multiple video shows per week, lore updates, developers regularly engage in the forums, have a weekly newsletter, as well as a regular monthly report. I don't think the issue is whether we treat our community with respect, as that's a core tenet of the entire company, or lack of communication. It's different people want communication in different forms. Some want in-depth, long, talky videos. Some just want the shizzle videos with pretty graphics. Some people want huge technical videos on server meshing, and others just want to have it explained like I'm 5 sort of version. And finally, a lot of people just want to know when a feature or the game will be done. And I think that's the crux of the issue. It's impossible to please all the people all the time. And with a project as complicated as Star Citizen or even Squadron 42, it's impossible to have ironclad dates due to the high amount of ongoing R&D. So yes, I do feel like we've been meeting the pledge. Does that mean we can't improve? No, we can always improve. And if you follow Cloud Imperium games and Star Citizen close enough, you will notice that we are always trying new things and tweaking existing processes, both in our development approach and in structure and how we communicate and share information with all of you. The new roadmap will be part of this, as will the briefing room. There was a follow-up question to that answer, with a user saying, "I'm sorry, but this feels like a non-answer. Can you please state at which stage of development Squadron 42 is? The old roadmap showed that it should be in beta now, but based on the monthly reports that still mention prototyping, I think it's safe to assume that it's not the case. A feisty Chris Roberts responded, "I answered the question asked, just not the question you wanted answered. You're not really asking about what is being worked on Squadron 42, you really just want to know when it will be done. The best answer for your question is Squadron 42 will be done when it's done, and will not be released just to make a date, but instead once all the tech and content is finished, polished, and it plays great. I'm not willing to compromise making a game I believe in with all my heart and soul, and even though everyone, including me, wants Squadron 42 sooner than later, it would be doing a huge disservice to everyone working really hard on the project, and all of you that are looking forward to it delivering something that isn't great. The new roadmap will show how we are doing things towards that goal, and as we get closer to the end, it will be more accurate, but it will never be a perfect crystal ball of the future, as there is always a certain amount of unpredictability in game development, especially when games are hugely ambitious and has a very high quality bar. Red Dead Redemption 2, Last of Us 2, and now Cyberpunk have all taken a lot longer than originally communicated, and those projects didn't even announce a release date until very deep into their production, when most of their tech had already been resolved. We still have a ways to go before we are in beta, but everyone on Squadron 42 is working very hard to deliver something great. Now, I just want to take a little brief moment off what Chris said there. So, them saying we still have a ways to go before they're in beta suggests they're not in beta yet for Squadron 42, and a ways to go. Could that be 2 quarters? Could that be a year? We don't know. But I think it's safe to say that it would be optimistic now to potentially think that Squadron 42 would release in 2021, although it could be a end-of-year release for 2021. I will still hold on to that hope personally, but we'll have to wait and see. With this Squadron 42 update video, I think that might give us a little bit more indication, and once we have the new roadmaps, which should be coming within the next few weeks, we should actually start to see a bit more of where CIG roughly plans for Squadron 42 to be at least feature beta complete, and then that will be interesting to see how far delayed Squadron 42 has been. Back to the questions. Can you elaborate on the current thinking on how base building is supposed to work? We have some pretty exciting plans on the base building / player settlement front. One of the fallouts of iCache, which we've been working on for full persistence of state and location of all dynamic objects in the universe in Star Citizen, is that recording and restoring building once you've constructed is really no different to remembering where you dropped your coffee cup on some distant planet, or which shelf you had it on in your hab. Basically, iCache will enable us to allow all of you to settle the stars. When we first came up with the concept of player-built outposts and land claims, iCache hadn't been technically designed, but now we have a system that will have a much higher degree of fidelity in remembering where each building or component is and what state it's in. So rather than just dropping down a singular outpost, you'll be able to place down various structures and connect them to things like power generators, turrets, resource collectors, hydroponic domes, and so on. In parallel, we've also been working on the tools to build settlements or homesteads, both for our artists / designers, more of a RTS godlike view, real-time strategy, and for players in the first-person view. With this, we've been rethinking how the Pioneer will work to make her more flexible. Rather than just spitting out a prefabricated outpost, we want her to be more of a mobile fabrication facility that would be near your building site. With a Pioneer, you'll be able to build these structures without having to ship in the component parts, as long as you have a supply of raw materials. You don't need a Pioneer to build a homestead, but if you want to build a decent settlement, or you want to build something relatively quickly as opposed to having to fly in prefabricated components from major landing zones, then you'll want to have a Pioneer, or have a friend or someone that is willing to lend you their services. We're very excited about the gameplay that all of this will provide, and we can't wait to go into what kinds of settlements will sprout up all over the huge amount of land area the game has. We will need iCache in and working well before we see this in game, so expect to see some updates on this later next year. So, I really like that sort of building in game. Star Citizen has a huge amount of sort of like land and gameplay area on planets and moons. It's going to have a ridiculous amount, so you're not going to have to worry overly about, oh my god, the whole of this moon has been taken up by players. I mean, it might over many years and like multiple orgs trying to take up some of the smaller moons, but I think there's a ridiculous amount of land to be able to put your bases. And now that they're saying, no, it's not just going to be outposts you're going to place, you're going to be able to effectively build large settlements and have what seems like manufacturing and reasons to have those things there. Having resource collection there means you can have like facilities for mining potentially, or farming, and lots of other cool stuff that sort of like comes to mind, but we'll have to wait and see exactly what they've got planned. And as they said, they should give us an update on settlements and building and the evolution of what's gone on with that later next year. I'm hoping that doesn't imply that iCache isn't as far as long as I would like or thought, so I'm hoping that we get iCache in some form by the end of this year. I'm hoping there's a load of technical stuff that goes in for 3.12, but again, as Chris says repeatedly, it'll be done when it's done, it'll be ready when it's ready, but I do hope that is sooner rather than later for a lot of this stuff. And obviously iCache is incredibly important to the game and allows for so much. It's like a big technical bottleneck now for the game to be an MMO, and a prerequisite for them having server meshing and a load of other stuff as well, and as they said, base building. But I'm really interested to know what you think. Are you excited about what they talked about for base building now, which is going to be much more expansive than they originally had said? Are you disappointed by what they had said about Squadron 42? Do you expect it to make a end of next year release, or do you think it is much further out than that? Do you hate the idea of permadeath in Star Citizen, or do you think it's not actually going to be that harsh? Do you think it might make some cool stories, but you'll probably be able to buy medical like insurance or something for your character to maybe protect it? Whatever your thoughts, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Every month we have a Star Citizen ship giveaway. For October 2020, it is for a Mercury Star Runner. This highly anticipated multi-role ship is going to be great for small to medium-sized crews that want to do a bit of everything, whether that be cargo running, data running, missions, combat, smuggling, all that sort of jazz. And it's going to be in-game and flyable very soon. All you've got to do to be in for a chance of winning one is comment on any of my videos made during October, including this one. More details down below. What am I shilling for today, I hear you ask? Do you hate it when people steal all of your money and your house over the internet? I know I do. NordVPN may have been invented by wizards to help protect your personal data from the prying eyes of the dark web, a sinister cabal of technomancers that grow in power the more they know about your browsing habits. The true story of NordVPN's origins are unknown and lost to the ages, and without using facts, no one really knows how it provides more accessibility to otherwise censored websites or a safer security experience for all that use it. All I know is that it does, and that when you sign up to it, the power level of my bank account grows, and I use it, and maybe you should too.